Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Bladensburg Council Work Session for Monday, September 9th, 2024. We're now called to order. The first item on tonight's agenda is the approval of the agenda, so I'll call for a motion to approve. Moved by Councilmember Blunt. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Dixon. Any comments or questions regarding the agenda? I did just want to ask if the council would be open to adding 10 more minutes to the council meeting overview, simply because there's a lot there, and in case there's some questions, I just want to make sure we have time and to still be able to end around 6:45, no later than 6:50. Would that work for the council? Okay. All right. So, any other edits or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the motion. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nay? I'm sorry. Sorry, council member, did it come on for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Any nays? The ayes have it. The agenda is approved. Next, we'll move down to item number 3 with the approval of the council work session minutes from the July 15th meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Brown. Is there a second?
A second.
There's a tie. Councilmember Dixon for the second. I know. Can you tell we're happy to be back? We actually missed this in the month of August. I don't know how many people actually say that, but we missed it. All right, where everybody's like the Olympics, ready to go. They want the gold. All right, with that, all in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Next, we'll move on to new business, beginning with the draft legislative priorities for 2025. And we have 25 minutes allocated for this presentation. I believe L.A. Perez is supposed to be with us on the line. Let me just see.
I don't see.
They're not yet, but they'll be here soon. No, sorry.
Okay. Council members,
There
are
he is,
you?
there he is. Oh, no, John's here, and he's here.
Oh,
Jonathan.
hi. I'm sorry, Mr. Brown. I did not see you. Apologies. Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. So Town Administrator Bailey Hedgepeth, did you want to just do a little preamble before Mr. Jonathan
Oh.
Brown takes us through the priorities?
May I, thank you, Mayor Council, thank you for allowing me to join you virtually. What we've done today is you've got 2 items that you're going to be looking at. One are the draft priorities. Mr. Brown is going to be presenting you with some information on potential legislative bills to watch and items to watch. And so that's really part of his overview. And then I just want to go through the legislative priorities, which are an update from last year's with the mayor and council. So I'd like to then hand over the screen to Mr. Brown from LA Perez. Mr. Brown? Looks like are you frozen, Brown? Jonathan, you there?
Oh, you're muted, Mr. Brown.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Madam Mayor. Thank you for having me and esteemed council. Kind of what Michelle alluded to, I will cover a few legislative items that may be that are of interest for Bladensburg that we were following before, as we follow into the new session that covers tonight. Dovetails closely what we'll be covering. I think one of the main bills I would call kind of attention to is Senate Bill 0100, something Mayor James that you supported very closely, and that's the organized retail theft bill, which directly coincides with public safety, directly coincides with economic development and growth, and making sure that our businesses are taken advantage of. So we'll support it by Chief Collington as well. HB 282, that was speed camera enforcement. That was a bill that kind of went down to the wire. I know we follow that and definitely pushing for that, which will allow trained city officials rather than police officers to have to do speed camera enforcement. So allowing a technician to do that versus police, which definitely frees our police up to do things that are obviously from public safety perspective and not servicing speed cameras. Um, in addition, House Bill 1059, that is Delegate Holmes' bill regarding municipal zoning. That overall was a very supportive bill that we followed. There were some limitations into it in terms of size of district and people opting in or opting out. So I think there's some room for growth and development to introduce that bill and suggest some amendments to it, but definitely allowing the municipalities that desire and want to take their own zoning and craft their own destiny in their own hands is a good thing. So that's also there as well. Also in line with public safety, Senate Bill 0314. That is a parental accountability bill. That was something also we supported. Basically outlining that if a juvenile broke a law or did something they were not supposed to do, it allowed individuals to actually assign parental accountability to that juvenile, to where an individual up to $25,000 from a civil perspective could go after that person for said funds to get back. That was also a bill that was supported by the county. Once again, those are some couple high level bills that covers a number of different things from public safety and zoning and things of that nature that were very so the Bladensburg was supportive of and that we followed. It didn't follow through. That definitely we should keep our eye on the ball as we move forward with the next list.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for that
Questions for me?
update. Yes, so one of the things that would be helpful for the council and even for sharing our legislative priorities with our county, state, and federal officials would be perhaps just if Town Administrator Bailey Hedgepath, if you or someone on staff could just add in for the bills that have already gotten bill numbers, that information, just for reference, I think that would be helpful. I know Mr. Brown was rattling off the numbers because he knows these like the back of his hand. But it could be helpful, again, as we're sharing this document with our representatives, just to make it easier for them to understand which bills we're supporting or asking for their support of. And just want to open it up to the council for any questions regarding the legislative priorities. And while you're thinking of some questions, I'll just start. I do want to acknowledge some things have been on for a few years, and it's mainly because these are big goals that we have, and it takes years to achieve these. So with the public safety bills, sometimes those are introduced, and it takes years before there's any momentum to get behind them. And sadly, just using public safety as an example, what we're seeing now is as more incidents are occurring in communities, regardless of rural or urban, what's happening is now our state officials have to reconcile with, we need to rethink these laws. When we look at protection of juveniles, of course we don't want to violate anyone's rights, but look at the shooting that occurred in Harford County last week. That young man could not be interrogated until he either had legal representation or his parents, and someone died. And so we have to think about how we're really putting pressure on our state officials to be more thoughtful, not to go too far in one direction, left or right, but to really think about what's the right thing to do to protect our community and to really do our part so that when these negative instances occur, there is a just and fair process in place. And so I think, again, just using public safety, I wanted to just mention if residents are like, oh, this looks familiar from previous years, because it takes sometimes years to have movement, similar to getting zoning authority for municipalities. Some municipalities across the state have that, but in Prince George's County, you'll find only 1 or 2 municipalities have that. And some of us truly need that, and we're willing to invest in it because we want to say on your behalf as to what comes to our communities. We don't want to be left with what the county decides Bladensburg needs. We get input from our residents, all 5 of us, on varying levels, whether it's the business owners, other stakeholders in the community, and we need to have power to do something with that information. And so, again, these priorities, again, they will continue to be here until we get them moved into action, until we can take them off of our list. I'll also just note really quickly, there were just a few typos in here, so I'll give those to the clerk so we can just clean that up and make sure that this has grammar checked and everything before we start sharing it with our officials. But any other comments or questions? The call bus, Councilmember Blunt, I just wanted to make sure that was still okay to leave on here. Do you still see a need to keep pushing for more there? Okay, just keep pushing. Okay, all right. Well, Mr. Brown, again, thank you for taking the time to join us. To the staff, did you all want to offer any input, Chief, or I'll start with Chief
Yeah,
since he's in the
yeah,
room.
let Chief, since he's right there. Go ahead,
Yep.
Chief.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor, Council, community residents, Ms. Hedgepeth. Just for a point of clarification with the speed camera bill. So right now, it only applies to agencies that don't have their law enforcement where they can use civilians. So next session, we hopefully will bring that back around so that we can free up, even in our jurisdiction, keep officers on the street and hire civilians to oversee the speed camera enforcement program. So I just wanted to make that for a point of clarification.
Yep, thank you for that, Chief. And, to that point, Mr. Brown, if you and your team could even flag, once the session begins, I'm thinking more so of the Maryland State session, if there are opportunities for the town council to testify, all 5 of us don't have to, but if we could just be made aware of when these bills are coming up so we could work with staff, and maybe it's a staff member, if it's public safety related, maybe it's chief and a council member who could go and testify on behalf of the town. We just want to make sure that our voices are being elevated in front of the decision makers so that they don't feel that, oh, it's just the lobbyists coming before us again. It makes a big difference when they see elected officials who have to take off from work and come down there. They really do listen. And so we just want to make sure that in the 2025 session, we work more closely with your team to leverage those opportunities in the right places. Town Administrator, anything else that you wanted to add?
And just from the beginning, Mayor and Council, the legislation for the zoning, I know you mentioned this, is on your agenda tonight. And part of that is because because of the work that Tony and Jonathan have been doing with the other agencies within Prince George's. We all are looking to pass some kind of legislation this month so that we can start to bring that to the delegation so that we can show a strong force in regards to that particular piece of legislation. And that'll be in detail and I guess in the council. But if there's any questions regarding that, just while Tony's on, just while Jonathan's on, if there's any questions about that one in particular, that's the other reason why we wanted him here. And thank you, Chief, for adding the stuff on public safety, because I think that we could probably flesh that out a little bit more, but I just wanted to put something together so we had a draft. So we will work on that this week, Mayor, once you guys make a decision on it, Mayor and Council, so that we can get this document cleaned up.
Great, thank you for that. And just really briefly, Mr. Brown, do you mind just doing a brief recap on the sort of alliance that your team is building on the municipal zoning front? Just for awareness, because as Michelle said, the council will need to vote as to whether or not we want to pass a resolution to support that this evening.
Yes, so a number of our City College Park and a number of other town administrators are getting together as it pertains to the bill I referenced earlier, Delegate Holmes' bill, and kind of building on that to allow municipalities to kind of govern, have their own destiny from a planning and zoning perspective. So they're getting together to try to, 5 fingers make a fist, right? So the goal is to have a larger and louder voice to say that, hey, municipalities can handle this authority, we can handle this ability. We kind of want to have a stronger voice in how our areas are zoned and through that ability. So that's kind of where it's at. So it's a build upon Delegate Holmes' bill, which unfortunately didn't make it out of delegation last year, mainly due to some county level politics. But yeah, that's the overall goal of the kind of in a small sample size of what the group is trying to do.
Great, thank you for that recap. So any questions before we move on? All right, yes, Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, just real quick, because I think with that zoning bill, because we talked about looking at the funding and, what it would cost for municipalities, but I think the municipalities have to be at least 14,000 in size. Is that
No, the
correct?
change, no, the change in, sorry, Councilwoman, the change which we're looking at is to include anyone and regardless of size, in it. And also from some of the funding issues, that we would do a cooperative from the standpoint of a planning and zoning administrator. So that would lower our costs. And then that the county still would support, us, Park and Planning, Prince George's Planning would still support us. It's just that when you have items, you'd have a local planning board that would make a decision, much like Cheverly has one now. You would have a local planning board that would do that, and then you just have a consultant, which could be a range rider between all of the municipalities that would
Right.
come out and administer that. So your costs are not as great, and you're not really losing anything. I think it's kind of this delicate balance between, basically having the services from Park and Planning, and also you having the council being able to make a decision on the kind of items that are discussed in their jurisdiction. I'm sorry, Jonathan, but from right now, that's the change in the bill, if that makes sense.
Okay,
It's a little different.
Yeah, I wish we had something that talked about when the county council, when they approve businesses coming into the municipalities, and sometimes we don't know until until they're already here and they've already been approved at that county level. So, but thank you for that.
And this is a step in that direction.
Yeah.
This helps address that, so we don't end up with 4 of the same thing or 5 of the same business type in a 1.1 square mile radius. So
Exactly, yes.
you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us, Mr. Brown, and for all your support with this. And you'll be hearing from the town administrator in terms of our next steps. But please express our regards to Mr. Perez, too.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
You as well. All right. So next we'll move forward with the Bostwick House update and report. Town administrator, did you want to take that one, or do you want me to punt over to Mr. Tonelli?
No, I don't want to
Okay.
put Mr. Tonelli in that position because it's sort of been my baby, and I just don't want to keep him. But he's gonna do the PowerPoint for me.
I'm fine with
which
that, by the way.
he's fine with it, which is the funny part. So, so on your PowerPoint that we put together, I just wanted to kind of address a couple things that the council asked for us back in the month of July. Our next slide, you can just scroll up, Vito, because I'm gonna make sure I'm not in the right one. So the first one is some recent actions. I know this looks small on the screen, but it sort of recaps all of the things that we've done just in 2024, just this year. We've interviewed firms, worked on various RFPs to get actual contracts that you've actually executed one last meeting, and you're going to execute another one this meeting. Actually, you executed 2 last meeting, you're going to execute another one this meeting. We've sought approval from MHT for approvals of the easements to be able to do the work that helps us to expend the bond bill. Again, council awarded the money, we've had the TAP. We should have a final report from the TAP this fall. They've had some snafus with their staffing, but we'll get that soon. And we've just been moving forward. And I think that's the one thing, we've had a lot of activity on Bostwick in the last 6 months, and actually you'll see work being done. The windows have been measured and they're going in, they're taking them out in September, and they'll be replaced in November. And actually the chimney work is the chimney and masonry work is on your agenda today, and that will begin in the next few weeks with some roofing work. Next slide. So I think the question was preliminary about what are the grants that are actually being are being used at Bostwick House. Currently, there are 3 open grants. We have a grant from MNPCCC planning grant for historical homes, historical properties, which is 49,000, which you approved earlier this year. That's open. We have an MHT, Maryland Historical Trust grant for planning. And actually, we have about $10,000 left on that grant, and we're going to close it out this fall. We're using some of the money we were going to use that a bond bill for the ULI TAP. We got permission to use that money for MHT gave us permission to use it to close out the grant. 10,000 of it was received back in 2021 when you started to do the Neighborhood Design Center grant by when you had the previous town administrator, and it was part of our budget that year. It's so we've already accepted 10,000 of it, so there's a remaining 10,000 that we have left to spend, which we've spent, and we'll get that reimbursement very shortly. The last one is the bond bill, which is $500,000, which is most of the funding. Sorry, Vito, you can go first. And I think everybody, that's really the majority of these stabilization projects are in that one, along with Encore development. The next page is the list of the ones that we understand. Now, our record keeping, not due to any financial reasons, but our record keeping on going way back is not the greatest. But this is the list of grants that have been issued from 2018 to 1997 that have been completed on the Bostwick House. This is what information that we had Joey helped to pull up. Joey Lample is our consultant on this property, and she's been really helpful in creating and getting some information. So these are all the previous grants. You also have this attached in a larger information, but that's the previous grants page. Next page. So here's what we're doing. So like the flow chart one is that there are 3 key activities that we need to work on, or we need approval from the council to start working on. The stabilization, which you've been doing with the $500,000 that we've gotten from bond bill. The site activation itself, like how are we going to use that site, and then adaptation uses. The Encore sustainable that study will look at the reuses, like how do we update the electrical? How do we update the HVAC? How do we rehab the building? And how do we make it usable? The site activation is, how do we have events at Bostwick? You know, we need to have facilities like a composting toilet or all those kind of things. So those are the 3 key areas that we see moving forward. And I think the last slide is just my thank you slide. Oh no, next steps. So the next steps are, you know, we're going to continue on the stabilization path with Bostwick under the capital grant, which that should be actually spent out in the next by the end of next year. We're going to receive the final ULI TAP, which I mentioned in the end of summer, likely September, which after talking to them it's going to be by the end of the month. And then we need to review that and share that with the council so that you guys can tell us what you want to see at Bostwick, because they made some specific recommendations, but we need to know from the council what's junk, what's not. So I want to get to that with you. And then develop an implementation plan that's based on those recommendations or based on council recommendation. And then continue to seek additional funding for site improvements. And then as always, Vito and I will be submitting invoices for grant reimbursements for these programs. And I think, Vito, is that my last slide after this? That's my last slide. So I'm open for any questions on Bostwick. We just wanted to make sure that we gave that update, especially because the question was asked about where funding, you know, where we were with funding and what grants are open.
About the funding, at least to as far back of a point as our records could go. Are there any questions from the council? I think the biggest takeaway, though, is these small injections of funding are not sufficient. And you see what happens when you get little pools of money. You can only do so much, and we really have to start asking for more to do significant preservation there. The one thing I also wanted to share with the council and staff is that I see the term event center keeps popping up in some of our materials. And I was cautioned by Senator Augustine about that and given him an update recently from the standpoint that if we're going after state funding, it's very hard for him to justify giving the town money for an event center that's going to generate revenue for the town. And where he can be most helpful is if we lean into the historic side and the museum like aspects of it, like a Riverdale Mansion type of situation. And so just from a funding standpoint, it gives him the ability to help us with more money. So I told him I would bring that back to the group so that we're just thoughtful about in our materials as we're sharing this with other elected officials, that we should be careful about that. And particularly knowing the federal story, the tie to the naval history, that could also be a way to help us get some federal dollars to help with the preservation there. So just some feedback I wanted to share with the group. But any comments or questions from the town council or staff before we move on? Councilmember
Mayor,
Brown?
that's really helpful.
Now, I would just like to just thank the staff and the everyone who's participated in moving this forward, because it's happening in stages, but at least finally some things are happening. So I just want to congratulate and thank the TA and the rest of the team for getting some movement over there at the Bladensburg House.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Councilmember Brown. Any other comments or questions? Okay. And Town Administrator, I think you were about to say something as well.
No, I wanted to say thank you, Mayor, for that feedback from Senator Augustine, because we had really looked at and we actually got some feedback today from University of Maryland about the terminology event center, and I think we've been really trying to clarify that more as community use or things like that, because we just want to be able, because we never think it, because from the interior, the maximum is about 25 to 30 people interior of the house, and so really cannot be used as a full-fledged event center. And so we can really think about the way that's phrased, because that does hit a nerve with people, and I think it's something that we can really look at changing the wording on it. So I appreciate that.
Great, and thank you again for that overview. So the next item on the agenda is back to you, Town Administrator Bailey Hedgepeth, with the council meeting overview.
Thank you, guys. And I swear this is like the end you'll hear from me tonight, because I'm just going to get through this and I'm going back to work, going back to my family. So the overview for tonight, and Vito, can you share that PowerPoint really quick for me? Thank you. So I just wanted to sort of go through the different slides that are coming on your approval for tonight. The first one is a contract with Gordian, an amount to not exceed $185,000 for bridge repairs. I don't know if the council remembers, but a couple months ago we brought you a piggyback contract with Gordian. Gordian is a contractor that works with the state on public works items, and they came out and they actually looked at a couple of our bridges, which are the Spring Road Bridge, the Taylor Street Bridge, and the Barnum Street Bridge. Mr. Hall is here, and I'd like to actually let him kind of talk about that as well. Mr. Hall? I am sorry to call on you too, and welcome back, Mr. Hall.
All right, thank you, Town Administrator Michelle, and Mayor and Council. Thank you. Basically, what we did is we have an overview from the county that came out and inspect all the bridges. They do it. I'm not for sure how often they do it, but since I've been here, they've done it multiple times. And as a town, we've never did anything to these bridges that they inspected. So now we have 3 bridges that we're gonna go as a town gonna go strictly towards them 3 bridges, because they have the most, I would say, deterioration. Okay, than the other bridges, and it's a whole breakdown. I can't tell you detailed breakdown, but a lot of this stuff is like underneath the bridge too as well, to where if you don't go underneath there, nobody would know. I mean, because there's a stream running underneath them. So they're going to do most of them projects, in which the money is coming from the county, I think. So what the county did was give us an outline of things that they needed correct, and I think this is the best thing to do, because their engineer and their style of work on bridges is, a little bit more than what the town, has engineered to go out there and just to cover. And as Ms. Michelle said, I've talked to them, Gordy, and been out on site with them maybe 2 or 3 times, and they seem like a very, very constructive company that deals with multiple job tasks, and they'd be a good part to have on the town of on our side as the town of Bladensburg. And basically that's all we have. I mean, I can go through details and show you a lot of stuff that they saying that needs to be done, but it's going to throw a lot of people off, because what is a pillar? What is a sign directional? Stuff like that. It's just stuff that basically being aware before you get to the bridge on stuff like that too as well.
And
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, because the interesting part about it is that the council, you have a detailed quote that shows you all of those details in the regular agenda. So I think it's a really helpful, and this is being paid for by the county, CDBGR. This is CDBG money from the reprogramming, and it's actually we have 155,000. The total cost is 176. Yeah, the total contract is for 176. I mean, sorry, 185, but 176 is the contract cost. $5,000, $8,000 is the additional cost for their project management. So they will be their project managers.
And then just in simple terms, because I know, Mr. Hall, you were saying the county comes out and they inspect our bridges ever so often, whether it's every few years. But to summarize, because there's 3 streets that we're focused on with this work, it's Spring Road, the bridge at Spring Road, the bridge on Taylor Street, and then Varnum Street. So would you say they're doing some structural work underneath the bridge in addition to repaving it, just without getting overly technical?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
that
Yes, ma'am.
sums it up. And then I also saw work to some of the fencing as well in the quote.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all
Some
right.
of the fence, the bars that support the fence, a lot of that has to be welded back together or put new bars in there. So that's part of that, what you see as well.
Okay. Any questions from the council? And for those watching, I do want to note, these bridges are all in Ward 1. So again, we're focused on the bridges at Spring Road, Taylor Street, and Varnum Street with this phase of the capital improvements. All right, Councilmember Brown?
Is there a projected time frame?
They will start right away, Councilmember. They actually will take a couple weeks to mobilize, and they'll get this done this fall. So that's why we're pushing it onto this agenda, so they can do it before the end of the year.
Okay, thanks.
So it sounds like it's good timing from the standpoint that we can get it done before the winter weather moves in. I'm glad you asked the question about timing. So we don't have to wait until after winter and then come
Right.
back in the spring. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. That's a really
Yeah.
good point. All right, so with that, we will keep moving forward. Town Administrator, back to you for the council meeting overview.
All right, slide 2 is our next item, which is a contract with Govolution for credit card services. This is using the competitive bidding exception for purchases with state and federal and municipal contracts. Govolution has contracts with Howard, Prince George's, and I believe one other county, but and what they do is they provide credit card services to towns and to government entities where we'll be able to accept Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. They also allow us to do ACH for just $1, which is basically electronic checks. And those fees are paid by the user. The fee for users is 2.75%, which is ostensibly lower than most other services. And this is a cost neutral for the town because, again, the processing fees are paid by the users, but it also allows us to take not only online credit cards, but in-person credit cards so that we can start to move away from cash. And Mr. Tonelli can also answer questions on this because he was the one, this is one of his items as well. Mr. Tonelli.
Yeah, currently, I've been talking to this vendor for about 3 years now, just haven't pulled a plug on it, just timing and, but everything else. But this will help with the public safety department and processing payments for business licenses and also for fines collected and for any other smaller items, and also for business personal property tax if they choose to pay by this. And it'll also be on our website as well, a payment portal, and people can go in when they make a payment, reference the citation number or license number, and it'll be dropped into our account the following day. And as Michelle said, all the fees are paid by the user and not Bladensburg.
Thank you for that, Mr. Tonelli. And on that point, just by way of question, so item number 21, where it talks about the fees, and it says merchant cart service fees will automatically be deducted from a subscriber defined account on a monthly basis. That's where I was a little confused, because I thought the fees come out of the person paying the fines, not that we would have any sort of monthly expenses. Or is it, this covers the setup and some of
I think
the?
that is more of a boilerplate. It may include the setup. They are including 3 terminals at no charge as well, which is nice because they're normally about a $35 or $40 monthly rental fee per terminal. So to give us 3 terminals is nice of them. So, but I'm not 100% sure of those of the setup fees.
I think
But
it might be do you think, Vito, it might be the way that they take the money and then it comes back, because they might take it into an account? I think we might have to transfer that. Is that part of that as well?
I think it
Not sure.
I think it has to do with that 2.75%
Yeah.
that the payer is paying out. So, but we can get clarification on that.
Okay, yeah.
So-
Do you think you might be able to call between meetings, so before we
Sure.
vote on it, we can just make
Yeah,
sure
sure.
we're good? Okay, thank you. Councilmember Dixon?
Mr. Vita, who is the current contracted person? No,
Currently, we don't have anybody.
we don't have any.
Yeah, so this is a new service and something we really need and should have had by now. So, I mean, it's only 2024, so
Yeah.
you know.
Mr. Tonelli and Town Administrator are bringing us into the new century. We'll finally be able to take credit card payments. Go
I
ahead.
looked at other services, but they wanted personal guarantee by either an appointed director or the mayor, and that just wasn't, so we just kept shopping and shopping. I've been
And
talking to them for a couple
currently,
of years.
Mr. Tonelli, compared to this tool right now, we're just doing things the old-fashioned way, by
Old-fashioned
check.
way, yes. Yep.
So if you owe a fee, you pay by
Yep.
check. Yes. Yeah,
We're trying to go cashless as much as possible.
agreed,
I mean,
yeah.
it's time consuming, it's, yeah, and just filing, everything else, it's just, so it's.
All right, Town Administrator, we have 14 minutes left. Back to you.
Yep. I'm going too quickly. Okay, so the next one is in regards to, I believe that's the ordinance. Vito, is that what I'm looking at next? Is the ordinance for the ordinance? Yes, the ordinance adopting the red light cameras, the signal program. Basically, this is the ordinance that puts into place the contract that we signed last month with Red Speed, and it allows us to have a red light camera program. Chief Collington's there if you have any questions in regards to the mechanisms of what this ordinance does, but it's pretty boilerplate on the allowing the town to charge to have red light cameras, and it puts that in place.
And one thing I appreciate, Town Administrator and Chief, is in the packet behind the draft language for the resolution, you also included for the council the list of red camera light locations. That way we just get a sense of all the various intersections and directionally where they'll be placed. But Chief, any additional information you want to add for the council?
Go ahead. So, man, I'll just chime in while y'all are looking through that. So, I mean, just again, we just want to highlight the importance of this. You know, we have a lot of pedestrians that get struck in these crosswalks when motorists just roll through and turn and drive. So, this is just another way of making our pedestrian safe communities, safe for our residents as well as our school children walking to and from school.
Thank you for that, Chief. Sorry, I'm trying to help folks find it, unless Mr. Tonelli can find it and pull it up. Oh, it's after the legislative priorities, I believe. If you keep going.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a statistics of how this reduces the accidents and is there like a number?
So, no, I don't have it today, but I'm sure we can get some traffic studies from State Highway Administration.
I'm just curious to see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Town Administrator, sorry, I was trying to help find the list of street intersections, but please go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, no worries. It was attached, and it's the total list of red light camera intersections within the town, and if that needs to be sent out, we can send it again.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's because it's back to back maybe, so it might be on the very last page.
Okay.
So the next one's a resolution. The resolution is Resolution 002, and it's in regards to land use. And as I mentioned before, this is the item that we are asking the council to support so that we can work with the other towns in the area in regards to possible land use and zoning for Bladensburg. And so this, so basically it would require that the town, appoint a planning board itself. It would also ask that we put together that we hire a consultant or a circuit rider, and it would help to revise the land use ordinance article to allow towns and cities within Prince George's County that authority. And so, but what would happen is first it would come to the town, and then it would be adjudicated by the county. Right now, you guys don't see it, and this would also give you that zoning authority to be able to look at items in advance. And I'm here to answer any other questions.
Were there any questions from the council regarding this? I know we talked about it with Mr. Brown, but I don't see any questions. TA.
Okay.
Oh, sorry,
one.
hold on sorry,
Okay.
moving too fast. One question. Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, so.
So agreeing to be a part of this would mean we would participate in having our own planning expert. So in that partnership that was discussed previously, so that we're not incurring the cost of securing our own planning consultant, it would be part of a consortium with the other municipalities advocating for this. And then the other part of it is what Ms. Bailey Hedgepeth just alluded to, was we would need to be part of, you said, the circuit rider program. So that, again, we're not taking on this resource by ourselves. We're sharing the cost of having that circuit rider amongst the towns that are a part of this, so that a request comes into Bladensburg to, let's say, build a new restaurant. That comes to the town to determine whether or not this is something that we want, because who knows, there could be 3 or 4 of the same restaurant already, or offering the same types of food. So it comes to us first, so we get the opportunity before it advances to get to the county, rather than what you said earlier, it goes to the county and then we're the last to know.
Yeah, and it's just kind of looking at the financial impact on the town, so, but that's what that cost would be to the town.
Yeah, I mean, we would estimate, Councilwoman, that we probably spend about $5,000 to $10,000 a year in consultant fees. I would say from that, realistically, because of the number that we've seen coming to us. And then the other issue that we can also do is opt out. We can decide
Right.
that you could opt out of it. So you can do that.
And that was one of the things from when we talked about this a few months ago that you mentioned, well, what if you don't want to
right, can you opt
participate?
out?
And that's a key provision, because we could be all gone, in 5 to 10 years, and the next council may say, well, they thought it was a good idea, but now that we're here, we don't want that.
Right, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not locking them in
Well, I can
perpetuity.
see. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you, Town Administrator.
Next one is, do you guys want to meet on Veterans Day or not? We're asking, staff is asking if we don't meet on Veterans Day, since it's a holiday, that we meet on November 18th instead. That's what this item is, and it's really up to you. I can answer any questions you may have on that.
Yeah, thank you for calling out the fact that the meeting is on Veterans Day. From the council standpoint, is it your preference to meet on Veterans Day, or would you prefer to bump it out to the 18th? Okay, I hear one for the 18th,
And the 18th,
two for the 18th.
18th is
three.
fine.
Okay.
No,
Well,
you want to
that's
meet
what
on the
you vote on.
11th?
You want to meet on Veterans Day?
I don't want to meet on Veterans Day.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so
But I can't meet on the 18th.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
Fine, I'll work around it.
it's okay. We'll do excused absence, don't worry. You'll be fine. Okay, so we will vote to adjust the November council meeting date to be Monday, November 18th in the next meeting. Thank you again for noting that. Back to you.
All right. Next one is, I have to try to anticipate, an award of approval, approval and award to the Royalty Institute. Last meeting, when we did the community grant awards, we did not have additional information on the Royalty Institute. That has been provided to the council as part of this packet. They are doing programming at Bladensburg Community Center, and they are operating here as well. If they've been operating, but this grant would support their operations at Bladensburg Community Center. So staff is recommending that approval, but it's really from the standpoint for the town, for the council to take a look at it. Attached to that agenda item was their response.
Thank you for that. And just from the council's perspective, there is in the tab with the detail, the program overview there. I know Councilmember Brown said she's been familiar with this group for 2 or 3 years and the work that they're doing. So we'll have this, it's already on the 7 p.m. agenda, whether the council wants to vote to approve their community grant. But are there any questions at this time for the town administrator? All right, hearing none, back to you, town administrator.
Okay, I'm trying to remember all of them by heart before I do. The next one is a contract with the Neighborhood Design Center for professional services not to exceed $73,500 for the Bladensburg Town Hall project. Attached, what I provided is a copy of a proposal. We've been working with the Neighborhood Design Center on a pro bono project with them for the last 6 months to actually probably 7, 8 months. The chief and Vito will tell you, we've met with them a couple of times to try to develop a program for the town hall so that we can move forward on a sort of a plan. We kind of came to the decision in probably early May, April, that we probably needed something a little bit more substantial than what they were doing, and that would require paying them for it. And the reason why we're suggesting to use a bidding exception to approve, which is using A3 or A6, which is a purchase based on state and county, but also for professional services, which is what A3 is because what we're looking for them to do are the following 3 things. Put together a professional, some architectural plans and a project management schedule. Also conduct stakeholder engagement and public hearings, public meetings on the town hall, not only just meeting with the council, but also meeting with the public to talk about spaces. And then what they would actually also do is put together design documentation and materials to prepare for a phase 2 design build using the bond bill funding. What I'm suggesting, or what staff is recommending, is that we use $73,550 from bond bill funding to do this. I think this moves us in the right direction of looking at the existing town hall site, and then looking, if you choose, after we look at the tab, of looking at the Boswick site if that is appropriate, but looking at it, especially the town hall site, for the town hall and actually get us moving a little bit more forward on this. We do have information, which is what we spent earlier part of the year on staff needs, and where we are with like the kinds of spaces that the chief needs, the kind of spaces that we think we need for like the town stuff. But I just wanted to kind of put this in front of you now because we've been kind of, the only bond bill money we haven't acted on really is the town hall, and it's been difficult without purchasing property or like knocking down the building, and we need the building. So that's what this is what my recommendation is in regards to this, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you for that overview. Any comments or questions from the council? I'll just start at really excited to see this proposal because we need this expertise to keep moving this project forward. As you said, for staffing reasons and other reasons, we really haven't had a chance to get this project off the ground. And I know NDC will do a really great job in terms of the stakeholder engagement, keeping all the communications clear, reporting back to the council, helping with all the various phases so that we're not just getting one group of stakeholders' input and leaving others out of that process, because this is the community's new municipal center. It's not just our town hall. And so that input is really going to be important. And I'm glad to see they're willing to do the concept designs for us, because the more that we're advocating for more resources and funding, having those concept designs is going to be key. Right now, we don't have anything that we can show our state officials or federal officials as we're talking to them about the future of this site. So appreciate all the work that you guys have put into trying to get this off the ground and then getting in the right partners to help us move it forward. Any comments or questions from the council before we move on? Okay. Councilmember Brown?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Have we thought about, I know in the past we've used the University of Maryland. You know, we've used the university a lot with some site projects development, and similar to what we just, what they just finished doing with us with the, over at the Boswick House. So it's, like it's.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Councilwoman. So I think the issue is that when we're using the student and the University of Maryland projects, we are, you know, one, we're not expending any bond bill funds, which it's good, we've been saving them, but we're also getting the concept, we're getting the concept plans, but we're not getting the project management and the detailed RFP to move into that next design build project portion. They can't, the student projects, when Mayor and I met with University of Maryland on these, they can do a great student project, but they can't really move you to that next level with the with as far as the concept, not the concept, but the RFP and the plans that we can take to a design build firm. They're gonna, when we go to the design build or when we go to the architect, they're going to still make some changes, but this really helps us to prep a lot more. And so that's the reason why we didn't go that route, but we could take council correction to go, you know, and work with University of Maryland on this project.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Councilmember Brown?
It did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Okay, but I think you're right, just in terms of not having the students just do concepts, but really having the professional services needed to help move this forward or present a different level of need that the town would need at this moment, that neighborhood design center could offer, but that the students really wouldn't. So on the project management piece, the architectural services, the stakeholder engagement, the students did a great job in terms of holding the charrettes, getting input when we were getting the mock-ups for the Main Street area, but they couldn't go beyond that. And then also the other thing that we would have to consider is we had to do that over 2 school years. So versus NDC being able to say for over the next 9 months, here's what we're going to accomplish. With the students, we'd have to do phase 1, for example, school year 2024 to 2025, and then come back, you know, fall 2025 to 2026. But hopefully we can find a role for them, you know, working with us in some capacity.
Hey, Mayor, and when they did that, those charrettes, we had a $10,000 contract
That's
with them
right.
to do that.
Yep,
So
that's right.
so there was a cost.
Yeah. Town Administrator, I think we have a
Yep.
few more.
So you got just two more. So the last one, the next one is the contract with EGG. And I know Councilwoman Brown will love this because we are working on the masonry and we're getting that, the back thing fixed. So this is what this does. It does, scroll up the other way. Up a little bit more, not Brutus, next one. There we go. Yeah, there we go, with the picture of Boswick. So masonry repairs, $96,000, $5,000 in small roofing repairs to the porch, some general conditions, pointing for $10,000. The overhead, which is the cost from the actual project manager, and then the other, there's a project manager and there's an overhead cost, which are the overhead scaffolding, which is what part of this, and they also did an additional $12,000 for overhead scaffolding. And then so that's a total of $129,600, and then a total of $142,570, and this comes out of the bond bill, finally bond bill for the Boswick House, and actually this almost expends all of the bond bill for Boswick House, which is something that our delegation has been on us about getting those spent. So this is the last obligation. Maybe we have a small dollar amount for the window coverings, which will be under $5,000, but we're pretty much done with the $500,000 after we expend this one. And I'm here for any questions.
If only you could see the smiles at the dais right now when you said this will expend the rest of the money. One of the questions I had, but I did see in the breakdown that the project duration is expected to be about 6 months. I guess that'll be weather dependent to a degree since we're going into the winter months. But could you also explain what they mean by under the general notes, in one place I saw, any changes requested to existing conditions will be completed on a cost plus 25% basis?
So we're watching that very carefully. Will Kaywood, who is our architect that we also employ on this, it's like this project has lots of sub consultants, but Will has been really great working with EGG on trying to avoid these overruns from coming up. EGG actually bid on this project back in May, and we worked with them on, so that's why we split out part of it for the windows and part of this to them after looking at it. But EGG, we just want to make sure that that does not occur. I will say that it's probably, they're basically saying if they find, we've had some rodent damage in the in some areas as far as like, and not like rats, but like more like, what was it, Pernell, like, didn't we see like, they're like, I don't want to say beavers, but something bigger than a rat. But
Raccoons.
Raccoons.
The raccoons.
The raccoon damage. We've had some real crazy damage, and that's what they're trying to. That's what that's about. Because we've had some, we've eradicated them a little bit, and very, very humanely. I'm going to say that. But we've eradicated most of it. But that's what that's in regards to. If that helps, Mayor.
Thank you. That is super helpful. Any questions or comments from the council? Okay, so that concludes the EGG construction for Bostwick House. And then last but not least, we have the approval for contract for Brutus and Associates for town engineering services.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mayor, Council. This is the last one, and I'm actually going to turn part of this over to our new town clerk, Ms. Watson. She helped a lot in regards to this because we put out this bid back in May, but when she came in the door, I said, here are these engineering firms. Can you please contact them and make contact with people so that we can kind of get this done for the council? So I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Watson to give her her debut on Bladensburg television. Ms. Watson.
Hello, everybody. As Michelle was saying, we looked over all the submissions. We had 6 people, 6 firms provide us with some bids, and we decided to the 3 top bidders, which were CPJ, Brutus and Associates, Mead and Hunt. We interviewed all 3, and after looking at their qualifications, what they could provide to the town, we decided to go with Brutus and Associates as the recommendation to the council.
Thank you for that. know, we've been saying we need a town engineer for some time, and we did do the 1-year extension with CPJ. So this aligns with the fact that, Sorry, Mr. Gray. I hit it, but not fully. I was just thanking Ms. Watson and Town Administrator Bailey Hedgepeth for working on the bid, as well as Mr. Hall. I'm sure you had to offer input for the town engineer, Mr. Tonelli, and others. We appreciate you taking the time to do this. It is time for us to have a different engineer. And so after reviewing the bid provided by Brutus and Associates, I do feel comfortable taking the town staff's recommendation to move forward. From the town council, did you have any comments, or questions, or concerns regarding the recommendation from staff? Councilmember Dixon?
Thank you, Mayor. Why did you choose Brutus? I didn't hear you.
We interviewed with all the top bidders, looking at the most responsive, the cost, their experience. We decided to go with them as the top bidder for the town.
And I see what you mean about the range of the pricing. They're not as high as the two other organizations in that $55 to 92-cent to $220 per hour range. And it is dependent, obviously, upon the expert that is being employed for the job, whether it's one of the top level engineers or administrative level staff.
That's correct.
And
Councilwoman, I'm sorry, we were very, I'm sorry, I just wanted to answer that question. Councilwoman, we're really impressed by their ability to also provide information on the grant process and the fact that they have some really good experience working with state highway. And I think they really answered that question really well when we answered it. I would say that that was one of the big things for me, because we're always applying for grants and we're always looking at opportunities. And I see that they might be a really good partner for that. And they will be here tonight also to accept the award. They're going to be sending an associate. But I just want to mention that as a difference maker.
yeah, and I thought it was really helpful how in the packet they gave
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mayor. No, I was just about to say, and even I'm looking at the pricing structure, although Brutus and Associates is 5502 to 220, the other one is 50 to 258. So, that $30 they are, so actually they are $30 more than Brutus, although they start at 55.92. So yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because most of the time you don't use it's usually the higher that they're most likely going to use, or the people in the middle.
Yeah.
And then I just realized, Mr. Gray, I did it again. I didn't press the button hard enough. But earlier, I was just saying that I'm grateful for the experience that they detailed in their proposal for not just emergency response, but relevant services as far as pedestrian safety capabilities, flood mitigation, and stormwater management experience. And then I also appreciated that they included at the back of the bid the fact that they do use 2 subcontractors who are minority businesses. I thought that was important too, as we think about our procurement policies for the town, to be able to stick to and adhere to that as well. So any other comments or questions from the council before we move forward? Okay, thank you again, Town Administrator, for that recap. I think that was your last item under the preview.
Yes, it is. I'm done. Thank you. Thank you.
That smile is a little too big now, ma'am.
I actually have some serious work I actually have to do here, but that's thank you guys. I just want to say goodnight.
We want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for taking
Thank
the
you,
time.
Michelle. Everybody's talking. Thank you,
Thank
Michelle.
you for joining us.
Thank
Okay?
you. And again, my
All right.
condolences to you and your family.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
they're coming here today for that's what I'm meeting with next. So thank you very
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you guys.
We
Have a
appreciate
good
Yeah,
that.
day.
we're praying
Appreciate
for
you
you and your
too.
family. Have a good one.
Don't think about us.
Bye-bye.
I know.
All right,
Think
bye.
about us anymore,
Don't think
okay?
about us.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, so with that, we have come to the end of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Dixon. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McBride. Any comments or questions before we adjourn? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. We're adjourned, and we'll see you back at 7.
Thank you.